What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Crowd Pleaser, the talk show that brings you the inside scoop on what it takes to be a male entertainer in this kind of world. I'm your host, Caesar the Crowd Pleaser, and with me as always is the man himself, Tyler Owen. How you doing, Tyler?
Good, everyone. It's nice to see you all again and be on the show with you, Caesar.
Right on, man. Right on. All right, so today we're going to start going in depth into each aspect of being a male entertainer that we kind of went through lightly in our initial pilot episode. Today we're going to talk about learning to dance, because at the end of the day, it takes a certain type of personality and skill set to perform on stage in a provocative and seductive manner, to say the least.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you on that for the most part.
First things first, though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to go ahead and thank our patrons. All right. You guys are the reason we're making this show. We really appreciate your support. You can check us out at patreon.com/crowdpleaser. You guys can sign up for as little as $1 a show. It really helps us out. And the more you pledge, you get to win some pretty great perks, like behind the scenes photos and video footage and stuff like that. Eventually, we'll start giving giveaways on the show, and you'll be entitled to that. You can also ask us questions of the week, and we'll answer them on the show here and give you a little bit of recognition. So once again, patreon.com/crowdpleaser. Next, we want to bring up La Bear Dallas. It's our home office. It's where we both go up on stage night after night, Wednesday to Sunday, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Best places for bachelorette parties, birthday parties, divorce parties, baby showers, you name it, we got it. So definitely come and check us out there. All right. So, like I said, we discussed a brief run through of what it takes in general, or all that encompasses being a male entertainer. And now we're going to go in the foundation. The basis of everything is your dancing. At the end of the day, every time someone steps foot in the club, the very first impression they're going to have is us on stage, whether it's side stage, main stage, helping someone else on their act, or performing our act. So dancing is the integral part of it. Wouldn't you say, Tyler?
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you on that for the most part. Everything you're saying it's really in depth on everyone has their own certain styles. Some people are more theatrical than others, and a lot of people are really good dancers, and some people aren't that well of dancers. But at the end of the day, we all take on our own part and kind of evolve from what other aspect we embark on ourselves or anyone else around us. So there really is a lot of variations to what this all entails and encompasses around the whole entertaining aspect. It's not just walking up there and doing our own thing.
No, I agree. So initially, everyone comes from a different background. There are people of all shapes and sizes that walk through those front doors and decide, hey, I want to be a male entertainer. I want to start stripping. Let me get on that stage. And with that, all that variance also means that there's various backgrounds that people come in. There's people that have stepped foot and they've been dancing as soon as they could walk, and other people that they've never stepped on dance floor or even danced at all in their lives. And all that is something that you have to overcome or adapt to when you start dancing. How did you start dancing? What's your background there, Tyler?
You know, my whole background all started with I never did anything dancing hip-hop wise or things that I thought were kind of cool, as in reverting back to the Magic Mike or anything like that. For myself, I was always initially from Kansas. I was born and raised there, so the only thing I really knew was line dancing and country two-stepping and maybe some rock headbanging and, you know, hip-hop moving back and forth, you know, the standing white guy dance. But for the most part,
Holding up the wall?
yeah, posted up with a beer, that's about it. That's more or less my whole background. I never really did too much with myself and just kind of always did some country line dancing and two-stepping and going to clubs. For the most part, that's all I really knew how to do.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Caesar? What would you say your background was for the
Well,
most part?
like I said before, I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, so obviously the Latin culture there is very strong. So it's safe to say I grew up dancing salsa, merengue, and stuff like that. Very, very couples-orientated type dancing. Yeah, you have your footwork and stuff like that, but you pretty much have your partner, and you guys just have a great time together, flirt a little bit, have a little bit of fun. Another thing that was really big being in Miami scene is techno was coming up, like Polk and Folk and all that stuff. And so I was going out, not that I was much of a clubber, But at the same time, I did enjoy it. Wanted to hang out with my friends, so we go out and see stuff like that. See Tiesto, Edge Fest. So a lot of techno, which unless you were raving with a little bit of party favors, it really was just kind of about the beat. But I think after about an hour or two, I was kind of done with it. So yeah, I started off mainly with salsa, and then when I went in the army, it was pretty much just straight country music and classic rock. So once again, maybe a little bit of headbanging or
Right.
going with the beat, but not much there. Then when I got out, I started contracting. Started to get back into the salsa scene, and my roommate at the time was a salsa instructor. So 3-4 nights a week, man, we were going out, hitting that dance floor, and talk about a cardio workout. Like some guys would bring 2 or 3 changes of shirts because we'd get just so sweaty dancing with everyone. But I'll be honest with you, it didn't really matter because you change a new shirt, 2 songs into it, you'd be
Right.
drenched. But so it definitely escalated my footwork and made me have a lot of fun. But once again, it was just a lot of partner work, man. You know,
Right.
like, and I started getting the bachata, which is very sensual movements. But you know, it's once again, you're sitting there with a girl and kind of showing her off a little bit. And never really, even though I enjoyed hip hop music and whatnot, I was never really into dancing it so much just because I wasn't much of a club person. And like I said, when I did go out, I was going out to Latin clubs, which is slightly different.
You know, for the funny thing that I gotta tell you is, you know, on the movie Jarhead, when they're in the Hummer and they're kind of like jamming out. I don't know if that's really the exact movie. Is it like that in the military? Do you guys ever just listen to like AC/DC and just kind of jam out and like we're about to go to battle type stuff? Was it ever like that?
Sometimes it depends on where we were at. Once you're in the hot zone, no. Like you
Right.
kind of need to pay attention to what's going on, so rocking out doesn't really go favor to that. That being said, when we first were going to jump into Afghanistan, it was roughly a 2-hour flight, I believe, and on a C-130. So they tried to jam out some music over the PA system.
Very
But
cool.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man, it's so loud in there that like you saw guys kind of trying to lip sync the words or whatnot, but some guys were a verse ahead, other guys a verse behind. It it was pretty crazy, you know. So it's not exactly movie magic, but there are times. But once you get in the hot zone, yeah, no, you kind of need to worry about paying attention to what's going on and jamming out. You know, you might miss a gunshot or something like that. The I will say this though, we ended up doing the Ranger Creed, which is a 6 stanza thing, on our way to the drop zone, and that same thing, like it was almost like a medley. You heard one guy's doing the R, the next guy's doing the A's and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it was almost like a cascade down the
That's kinda
C-130.
cool.
But I think we all finished at the right point at the end somehow, so it worked out. But yeah, like you get guys that they come in, you know, that's our backgrounds, but at least you had a little bit of even country music still helped you dance. But there's some guys that show up and they literally have never taken a step on the dance floor at all to perform for themselves, let alone for somebody else. So it's definitely a very difficult, I should say. No, it's an amazing hurdle to come across right out
I agree.
right out the gate. So one of the things that ends up happening is that even if you think you know how to dance, dancing at a club and dancing like a stripper are 2 entirely different things. I can't remember the last time a girl told me that a 540 head spin was sexy as hell. So, you know, not all dance moves cross over to the La Bear stage. It sometimes proves to be a shock, especially for people, you know, like we've talked about people that don't know how to dance, but the opposite is true as well.
Right.
People that are probably killers on stage, they've just never danced this style of entertainment before, and so it's a whole different world. You sit there and you get lost in the sauce, kind of doing your own beat and whatnot, and then before you know it, all the girls are like, well, we kind of came here to watch somebody strip. You're
Right.
kind of just, you know, dancing.
Dancing and
So-
jiving around, doing their own thing
Yeah.
for the most part.
You know, and you definitely see it when you watch the veterans, when you see the kind of mannerisms they have and how they play certain dance moves when and how they move their body. It's an entirely different animal, almost like belly dancing, but for males.
Right.
You know, and so the learning curve is there regardless. You know, it's almost sometimes beneficial to not know how to dance to an extent because you don't have to unlearn any bad habits.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you on that for sure. For myself, I mean, I literally know, I would say bar none experience dancing. So I guess what you're saying is, for me, when I worked in the oil field, everybody was like, man, I'm glad you didn't know anything about being an electrician, because you could be a shitty electrician if somebody taught you wrong,
Yeah.
or you did it horrible. So for me, the learning curve was definitely a very, very hard aspect to get around, make myself more presentable on stage, and just be this giant big billboard that people are like, okay, this guy's handsome and he can move a little.
Yeah.
For myself, that's the only thing is getting up there and realizing on how big that stage can be. It doesn't seem that large when you just walking in there for a meeting, on a Wednesday afternoon, and we're all sitting there talking and joshing around and having a good time and talking about the day. But when you first really step on that stage, it's like, man, this 12 foot or however 12 foot long, 8 foot wide, or whatever it is, seems like 100 foot long and a football field wide sometimes, and you just got to kind of pay attention and utilize everything on the stage.
Yeah, there's one of the jokes that Davey and I always have is we feel like we dance 10 times better on side stage than main stage, and we think it's just because of the size of it. When you're sitting there on a stage by yourself, like you said, huge, you're like, all right, I'm the center of attention, let's make this happen. That's a lot of ground to cover. You could do spin moves, you could do some kind of shuffles and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, like, it's intimidating, and you definitely have to learn how to use that space, because if you just sit there and kind of work in your own little box in the middle, it takes away from your show some, and that's something you have to learn regardless of what kind of dancer you are.
Exactly.
And the thing for me is that, like I said, coming back from a salsa background, like, I could hit rhythms, I could hit beats, but when you could sit there and spin a girl and kind of spin around her, you can eat up a lot more room. When you're by yourself, I'm like, there's only so far footwork will take you. I was like, man, how many figure eights do I have to do to get here? Jeez.
You got about 50% less of a human body working with you on the stage, so you got to utilize that.
Yeah, no kidding. Out. Just spreading my arm out to throw a girl really doesn't have that effect when I'm on stage by myself. It's kind of like, no, I swear she'd be doing something really cool right now.
Right.
So yeah, it's something you have to learn. And then that being said too, the alternate, as all things, the opposite is a reality as well. Is on side stage, you just got off main stage, you're stoked, you're used to doing these big movements to take up space. Then you go on side stage, you're like, man, you got to be careful. You spin a little too far, or take a back step when you're not ready for it, and you'll go right off the edge of the stage.
Right. I mean, there's been a couple times that I'll be just looking around or backing up and kind of messing with the girls and flirting with them, and then the next thing I know, I'm almost backing up and stepping on someone's drinks, or they put a dollar bill on there, and it's actually pretty slick. It's almost like, it's almost worse than a wet banana peel. Like, you're not. It's no joke. On them side stages, it's really 6 foot around, I would say, in diameter. Maybe.
And then a guy like you, I don't think two 100-pound 5 foot nothing women are going to be able to let you stage dive and crowd surf.
Right. I don't think that would really work in my benefit.
You'll fall off the stage and just see high heels and tiaras go flying. And then plus you'll have multiple guys on stage sometimes. When we have a strip off for a good Saturday or Friday night, we'll have 2-3 guys on that stage. So you definitely have to use an economy of space and economy of motion there at that point. So moving on, another thing that definitely people don't understand or just don't realize until you're on that stage is it might be different for performers. And actually, I think to an extent it is, because we have done road shows where we're strictly just doing a Chippendale show or something like that, where we come out, we do our skits, and there's minimal interaction with the crowd. And the one thing that doesn't have that makes our job so humbling is that we get that instantaneous feedback and gratification or critiquing on our actions on main stage. Because our stage is, as large as it is, it's still fairly intimate, and you can interact with people through like eye contact and stuff like that. You kind of get a feedback of what you're doing, whether it works or not, fairly quickly.
Right. I would definitely say that's bar none exactly how I feel sometimes when people let me know. I mean, I've had to learn the hard way, I mean, what about yourself? I mean, I guess it's definitely a humbling job, in the end. You're definitely getting judged all the time. Most cases, we're on our own worst critics of ourselves, but other times it's nice to get that instant feedback, and when some people really look at, yourself on stage, and it's like, man, am I really doing anything well worthwhile, or am I having a good reaction? Am I not? And sometimes I for myself, I learned the hard way. I don't smile sometimes, and I just dyed my beard, and I had somebody tell me, "Man, you look more sinister now. Now I think you need to make more eye contact and smile more often." So it's like, crap. Now I got to worry about this again. So I'm even getting constant feedback from people that come and see me regularly, and let me know what's really working for myself, and the people that may be texting in the audience and not paying attention to what I'm doing that I think is sometimes intimate or anything like that works for me, and how I can portray myself to be a sexy appearing person, coming on to them and making eye contact, smiling with them. I mean, what would you say your hardest things are?
There's a give and take relationship. You have to also look at the bigger picture sometimes, because honestly, the time of the night matters. You can have 20 girls in the club, but if they're there early, it's their first time, they're still sober, they might not be as inclined, because one of the things we get a lot of is how intimidating we are. That's why it's so important for us to make that eye contact, to smile and stuff like that. But you can't always do that. Sometimes it doesn't go with the skit. Case in point, if I'm doing my Conan or my Ghost Rider skit, I'm not going to sit there and smile at people, because it breaks the emotion I'm trying to express. And sometimes it can be intimidating. And that's why you have to look at the bigger picture of things and see what's going on. Yeah, because it can be disconcerting when you're sitting there putting on your heart in that stage, and you see a group of girls either trying to find out where the bathroom is, or try to go smoke, or they're texting or checking their Facebook the whole time. But at the end of the day, you're still a performer, and I almost sometimes see it as a challenge. Like, you know what? I'm going to make sure you find me more interesting than Facebook.
Right.
And so it kind of gives you that inner confidence, that challenge to step it up. But there are aspects that are more physical as well, of performing, and that's making sure you're making that eye contact. It's very easy to kind of just pick an object in the distance and stare at that and kind of do your show, but that's not what we're about. We're not just performing, we're communicating with our audience, and that's something you have to learn, that as well as it being awkward. You
Right.
are on stage, and sometimes you don't feel your best, or just being human. You're like, everybody's looking at me. The last guy just rocked this house. Like, I need to step it up my game as well. And you kind of have to release that tension that you give that yourself, and that pressure, and really, really, like, be the smoothest guy you can be. Just be something entirely different on that stage. And maybe not different from yourself, but possibly different from how you're feeling.
Right.
And that's something that you can't be taught. You have to learn it on your own by being on that stage.
And something that also taught me was just learning choreography. I mean, for myself, I literally didn't even know any counts, and I can't even tell you how to do counts now. I just can look at your feet and basically mimic you. That's all I can do, man. I'm definitely far from doing anything perfect on choreography. I was always just an athlete, and I never even thought dancing was cool to a routine aspect. I mean, watching somebody do it was pretty neat, but for myself, I can't do that. There's no reason. And it does, as you progress in the career and things like that, you start to find kind of your niche, and you'll figure out. It gets a lot easier with repetition. For myself, I know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. There's certain acts that I can do with speed, and there's certain acts that I can't do very well. When you made that, what is the name of that act? The country act.
Oh, Fake ID.
Fake ID. So when we learned that choreography, I remember I came to your house and we learned that together for quite some time. The hardest thing for me was there was the two-step. There was at the initial part of that course. There's always that step. So for me, I just chickened around it and did my little slide deal that I felt for myself. I was like, well, I mean, this looks pretty good.
It's so for our listeners out there, as we've heard us talk about before about our Chippendales type show, Las Vegas style shows, what it is every time a gentleman goes out on stage, they have an act that they do to warm up the show and kind of present themselves. And everyone has different themes and stuff like that, but they're choreographed numbers ranging anywhere from one person all the way to 10 guys on stage. And as a community, everyone, all the dancers get together and we learn these performances and productions to bring you a show. Sometimes they're for a specific individual, sometimes they're just for the benefit of the club. And regardless of where your learning curve is or your dancing ability, it is a mandatory thing to learn these choreographies. And Tyler stepped up to the plate. Every 6 months, we have kind of a training intensive where we all get up early. We come into the club by 11 o'clock and we rehearse. We take a quick break after about a couple hours, and then we keep rehearsing until it's time to start work. And they're just what they're called, intensives. We sit there and we learn everybody's choreography. We learn how to do it crisp and clean so everyone's hitting the same marks. Guys that have never done choreography before have to learn how to count numbers. They have to learn how to memorize, and they have to also, like Tyler had mentioned, understand the way their brain works and how they comprehend choreography. For example, I leave like waypoints for myself.
Exactly.
Every 1 or 2 8 counts, if there's a certain move that stands out in my brain, I mark that. Like, okay, we do this move on 4.
Right.
So it helps me kind of know that I'm on that path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if I throw off a little bit on the choreography or I'm behind or I'm not remembering something, my brain will always go back to, oh yeah, I'm doing this on 4.
Right.
On 5, I'm doing this. And it kind of keeps me in line, and then slowly but surely I fill in the gaps. And sometimes they're just ergonomics that you're not used to. If you're used to turning to the right, and as dumb as it sounds, sometimes turning to the left, it's not that it's hard, but your body isn't used to doing it, so you don't have that muscle memory, and it's like, man, I know it's dumb, but this turn is killing me.
I would definitely say it is all about natural feel and just going with the flow, because for me, sometimes there's a couple times that, Jason, one of our really good friends, also a dancer at the club, he'll sometimes do a little flare and he doesn't even know he does it. And it's just his personality, it's his persona, and he kind of is like, oh man, I'm really doing that. And there's sometimes where we do your fireman act and I'll knock my head whenever we're going to the side, and I have to literally tell myself on the count, okay, it's all the way straight up, it's like this, because it looks funny when you have one person kind of doing his own thing and not necessarily spinning the right way or putting his hands the right way, or there's something offbeat, and to most people we think, oh well, the girls won't notice. To us, it's the quality of the show, and we want to seem as professional as possible, and we're very hard critics on ourselves when it does come to choreography. We take it very seriously, because to us that is the niche for our show. It is a Broadway style show, and we want it to be seen professional because we do take time in this, in and outside of the job.
That's a very good point. It's something that most people don't understand, especially like I said earlier, as far as the unlearning bad habits. It's one of the issues we do have with people that are typically skilled at dancing, or they're dancers in themselves. They bring a certain flair or shine to their dancing, and it's great when they're by themselves,
Exactly.
or it's great when they're the lead of a choreography or a performance. But when they're one of the quote-unquote backup dancers, it's all about symmetry, because nothing stands out worse than or more than or something that's off. If 4 guys are doing one thing and one guy's doing something else, that one guy's is what's going to stand out. It takes away from the show. And so you're right. People, especially like hip hop guys, are known for it because they add a little extra pop or a little flair, and they don't do it intentionally, but it's something you have to learn. There's a difference when you're leading a performance and when you're behind doing it, and that's where you really have to pay attention about being in sync. And it's also, once again, a challenge. Just because if you have the counts and you know the moves, take it a step further. Learn it clean, learn it crisp. Get that angle right. And it really makes a difference. And that's a big part of the job. Everyone has to learn shows, and it's a huge hurdle for people that are coming in to learn when it's someone else's genre or you can't pick up the music. All kinds of things. People don't know the beat to the music, so they have to learn that. People aren't sure how to count. Some people learn by simply listening to music. Some people learn by the numbers. So that's something you have to understand on your own and then integrate.
One thing that I'll say for sure, and that I've learned from you, is working on new acts together. You've even mentioned working with rock songs is hard to choreography too. I mean, choreograph. Yeah. To choreograph any of that too is pretty challenging, especially when you're making your own routine up. And I know you make your own routines, and they are pretty well on point, I feel. And to some of us, they seem pretty simple, but at the same time, I think simple and crisp and clear is effective.
Yeah, it's been trial. We'll go more into depth on that on a different show, because that's a whole show of itself.
Right.
That being said, though, I mean, our choreography and some of our raw rehearsal videos are on Patreon.
Yeah.
That's a perk for being on the Patreon. Definitely, I think if you sign up for, I believe, $10 a show, you get access to all that. So definitely check it out. With the aspect of, so we have the choreography, we have the freestyle, but sometimes it's just not as easy as just going on that stage and making it happen. There's times as we start to realize how difficult it is and we humble ourselves that not every not every puzzle can be solved on your own. And sometimes you really have to seek that outside assistance or guidance to improve or kind of get you the rest of the way there. Maybe your self-determination gets you 60% of the way there, and then that's when you start looking outside for like having veterans and teach you stuff that will get you the other 20%. And maybe sometimes the last 100% is the women giving you advice or going to dance lessons and stuff like that. So a lot of guys seek these outside influences and sources of assistance. Like, for example, for me, I went to Powerhouse and took dance lessons. I found choreographers and hip hop artists that I enjoyed or at least heard of that had a reputation, and I took their classes because at the end of the day, it was extremely frustrating for me because, once again, I knew how to count because of salsa, and I knew how to listen to rhythm, and I knew body isolations, but the movements of hip-hop were new to me. And after seeing so many guys on stage, I'm like, that's it. I need to acquire this. I need help.
Right.
So on my days off, I'll go to these dance lessons. But, man, I will tell you what, was it a learning curve.
So let me ask you this. The dance lessons you took, what studio were they at? Here in Dallas, right?
Yeah, they were here in Dallas. It was Powerhouse. Actually, there were 3 different studios I went to because I wanted to see different instructors. Sometimes I took classes with women, sometimes with men, and it was great because I learned a lot. But at the same time, like, man, I'll tell you what, I feel like I was fortunate if I was walking out of there with 30%.
Really?
Of
Retainment?
Well, because I mean, it's only an hour class, and they have a 2-minute choreography that they want to teach you. So there's no breaking it down and like, hey, is everyone on pace? Because they have students that've been with those teachers for X amount of time, and students like me that walked in the door. So, man, there were so many. I would always be in the front of the class because I didn't want to watch them through the mirror or watch somebody else. But I'll tell you what, man, like, there were plenty of times you were saying there were moves that you just didn't get. That's why I started setting those waypoints for me, because I'm just like, I'm not going to get this. You doing it twice and then moving on is way too fast.
I'll tell you this, the only dance lessons I've got out of the club is basically what you've done on most of your acts, and I'll kind of mimic them on side stage a little bit. I could definitely agree with you on that.
Oh man, I would stumble on my own 2 feet and stuff, and I would almost then tell people like, hey, so what brings you to this class? Oh, nothing, just kind of learning for myself. Maybe if I did good in class, I was like, yeah, I killed that choreographer. I'd be like, yeah, come see me dance naked.
Right.
But
come see me.
Most of the time I was just like, oh no, I'm just kind of here hanging out. Don't worry about my 2 left feet.
It's kind of funny because you could just be like, yeah, I'm here for the cardio, you know. that's the benefit.
Show up in like sweats and like t-shirts and stuff. They'll be like, man, it's 80 degrees outside. I'd be like, I'm just here for the cardio, man. Don't worry about it. But man, it definitely it was a very humbling experience, like as if our stage wasn't enough,
right?
Like going on there, so a lot of times I would just sit there and try it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn 2 moves, so I'd figure out a move. I'm like, ooh, I like that move.
Exactly.
So I'd kind of, but then another byproduct of being at the front of the class and not having to look at the mirror is that I didn't have to look at the mirror. I could just keep looking at the instructor, because man, there were some times where I thought I nailed the move. I'm like, yeah, I totally got these 2 8 counts. I'm killing it. Then I'll like try to add a little flair to it and look at myself in the mirror, and I was like, ooh man, I do not look as good as I look in my head.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm good. I'm just gonna go back to watching the teacher. It's gonna take me a little bit of time, and then I'd go back to the club that night, or the next day that we go to work, and on side stage I'd be doing that move maybe 5 times a minute. If anyone was watching with me, they'd be like, this dude has 2 moves.
Yeah.
Because I would just sit there and do those moves over and over and over again until I got there. But so you mentioned that, you didn't really take dance lessons except when I was teaching choreography. So, like, did you ask any guys for help, or did, like, you have any mentors initially?
So I learned initially everything from Randy at the club. He brought me in, as well as Alex and our manager, Tom, and I literally knew nothing, and he told me some pretty good things to learn about choreography, and Randy's not the best at choreography, but he did cowboy stuff that I personally knew, so I know that two-step, and I kind of just took on that role and asking him personally from his experience and the time that he's been in the industry on what he would recommend for me to do, how to utilize the stage a little bit more. Then I would ask some of the guys at the club that's been there a little longer. Brandon Byers, I asked him a little bit. I think I asked you a couple times. Jason, maybe Damien, just to kind of get a feel from different, people like yourself.
For sure, everyone's gonna have a different approach. So the more feedback you get and the more kind of methodologies that people approach, if that's even a word, it gives you more tools for you to use.
Right. Did Alex ever give you any advice or anything like that?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. One of the biggest things, I'll never forget it. I have a back tattoo, and in my mind, I was kind of maximizing my resources. So when I initially started to strip, one of the things I would initially do is I would turn my back towards the crowd and take my shirt off that way, so people can see my back. And then with my shirt still kind of on my forearms, I turn around and then show my chest and my abs and whatnot. And to me, like I said, I thought I was giving them like 1-2 punch. They'd see my back, like, oh wow, that's great, whatever. Yeah, of course, because you gotta have confidence if you're gonna get naked in front of everyone. And then I turn around and bam, there goes an entirely different kind of look. But man, Alex hated it. He jumped on me just like, how are you gonna do that? Your stomach and your abs, and your chest are what they're here for. How dare you? Like, what are you doing? Taking your shirt off with your back towards them?
That's funny you say that because he said the same thing to me.
Yeah, hey, it's consistent.
I think, and he'll even tell you, and most of the people will even say, it's not what we really think is appealing. It's what the girls find appealing.
Yes.
For us to take our shirts off backwards, in their mind, is kind of not as appealing as what some people would really see it as.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's definitely something that you have to learn. It's something that like you just said, it might sound good to us, but we're coming from a place of inexperience, or sometimes you have to remember that we're not performing for us, we're performing for women.
Exactly.
So it's an entirely different thing. I also receive critique from other guys and normally the guys, they generalize a lot because we're not, let's just face it, we're there on stage, we're looking at the women, we're not looking at each other. But every once in a while you catch stuff. I think guys are really good about letting each other know when something's bad.
Yeah.
Like if there's something that just doesn't work, it looks awkward, it's not sexy, it's goofy, like guys will tell you. And for the most part, occasionally we might throw it out there kind of not tactful, and kind of, you're like, wait, are you being serious or are you just insulting me? But most of the time it comes from a definite, guys will be like, hey man, don't do that. It didn't look good.
For you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. It just doesn't work for you. So-and-so might be able to pull it off, but not you. Or like, hey, look, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
I know one of the things, especially nowadays, twerking is the big thing. There are guys that'll sit there and they'll put their butt up to the crowd and then start, twerking. And it just doesn't look right for a guy to do it,
I don't think so. Even in my case, I don't even know how to twerk, let alone attempt. I think I've done it once, and Damien's put it on social media before.
Yeah, there you go. That's never a good sign.
No, it's not. It's not a good thing if someone's intentionally recording you to kind of blast you on social media. But I would say there's certain moves that some people can do, and there are signature moves that some people do have. And as weird as that sounds, it's really an appeal to some extent. So I would say that. Now, another thing I would also capitalize on is asking women for advice. And when you want to know, hey, does this work for me? Does this look okay? Or they'll obviously come up to you and tell you, let alone they'll tip you or not. They're going to give you some type of critiquing advice and telling you what's going to work or not. So women are very opinionated on what they think looks good or not. And then if you go out of your way to ask the people, even our patrons and stuff like that, there's people that will ask us, or suggest, hey, I think you should try this, or that looks good on you, or anything else might be pretty well built for your style of dancing. Or have you ever looked into doing this or doing that?
You get feedback from women in multiple ways. I mean, in the end of the day, that's some of the best feedback we can get, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're performing for. But once again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. I remember one time I was on stage 4 over there by the VIP booth, and this one lady, she was pretty well intoxicated, and somebody was on stage, And she turned around to me and she was like, that's not sexy at all. And I kind of looked, I was like, what do you mean? I looked on stage, the guy seemed to be just fine. She's like, it just isn't sexy. I'm like, he's horrible. I'm like, well, there's no need to be rude. Like,
right.
You got any feedback or something? She's like, yeah, it's just those knee pads. Those just aren't sexy at all. And I was like, okay, well, I understand, but it's something for everybody. We're on our knees quite a bit, kneeling down on stages and stuff like that because of our height, and guys like to wear them because you can kind of accentuate your dancing a little bit. You can slide on the stages and stuff like that. So I'm not for them. I guess I'm pretty neutral about them. I had my fair share of time when I wore them. I since kind of let them go because I just don't like them. Me personally, but she was just like, see, that guy over there, he's sexy. He's not wearing any knee pads. And he's like, you're not wearing any, and that's really sexy. And I'm like, oh, that's great, thanks. And kind of, like, hey, so are you going to throw $1 or $2 my way? And like nothing. Yeah. Like that was the whole thing. Like whether a guy wore knee pads or not made or broke the deal. I was like, well, if you're worried about somebody's knee pads, that's kind of, and on the surface, it might have been like drunken stupor, like talking. At the same time, there might have been something to it. But, once again, like, I don't know. Me personally feel like now you're kind of nickel and diming people. As long as the big stuff is there, you're going to find something for everyone. That being said, you also get feedback just passively. If you do something on stage, like a signature move, and every girl, like, eyes widen or they scream or something like that, you did something right. You're like, cool, all right, let me lug that in my little notebook, and now I know that's going to be a good move. Or vice versa, women will tell you, like, hey, those jeans are a little too baggy on you. You should probably get tighter ones. Or, hey, don't do this move in this light. And you'd be surprised the kind of feedback that you get sometimes from people that they genuinely can say something, or like you might do a move like with my vampire act, there's certain things I do like, oh man, when you bit her, that was hot.
Really?
And you're like, okay, cool, that I'm on the right track.
Right.
The same thing with guys when we kind of put girls up for hot seats as well. It's something else that you have to learn. Obviously, women are there for bachelorette parties and birthday parties, so they want to put their girl of honor up on stage.
Right, yeah, and they want them to have a good time, definitely. Yeah. There always wants to be some type of show.
Exactly, and you're really great about that. We put them up for like your cowboy skit, and they'll go up and kind of dance a little bit and have fun. But, at the same time, they're still there for a little something more. So then they put them in a chair, and that's when I think it's hilarious. You almost literally change hats, so to speak, and go from, Cowboy Tyler to I'm a sex you up Tyler.
Yeah, I'll definitely say I do like the Christian Grey movies, I'll tell you that, alongside of being a cowboy.
Yeah, and that's something that you had to learn. It wasn't one of those things like you're just put a girl in a chair. I know what to do.
Right.
Like, trial and error. You have to, sometimes guys can give you some pointers. Sometimes you can watch other guys, but at the same time, you need to make it yours. Which brings us to our next point, which is finding your groove. After nights, weeks, and months of hard work, sometimes you finally get rewarded with you feel like you got there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, I know what I'm doing. Girls are responding well. I feel comfortable with the songs I'm using. And you're able to connect with your crowd and express those emotions back and forth. You're sending out a certain vibe and they're giving it back to you in their method. There's nothing better than ripping your pants off and having everyone scream. And you feel that hype.
For sure.
And it's kind of a symbiotic relationship where the more involved the crowd gets, the more involved you get. And, as they get more excited, your show gets more intense. And it's just, you guys are feeding each other. But in all honesty, you're never done evolving. You're constantly learning. Music's changing, crowds are changing, times are changing. You're changing.
Of course, yeah.
People, sometimes you get bored. I've been dancing for 4.5 years, and if there's one thing that people tell you all the time is that based on when you start coming to club is what Caesar
Yeah. That's a great point, man.
I've had a mohawk, I've had long hair, I've had short hair, facial hair, no hair. And it's not necessarily that my persona is changing. I'm still me. Yeah. But I get, it's almost like I could do Halloween whenever I want. I want to be a barbarian tonight. I want to be a rocker tonight. I want to be, Joe Cool, debonair hip hop, So it's one of those things that you can do that with your dancing. Like a case in point, you started off being strictly country,
of course.
100%.
Actually, when I first started, I only started on side stages, and I didn't even know the genre or how I wanted to perceive myself at the club or viewed, for so speaking, I guess. I wore a flat bill hat and sneakers, and
Oh wow.
I that was a couple weeks I did that, and I was like, man, this kind of feels funky. I feel like I look weird. I wore these like pink lace underwear. They looked god awful, man. And like you said,
Hey man, growing pains, bro.
of course, man. And just like you said, you know, you really do evolve over time. And for myself, I tend to get bored as well, and I want to find something different, or you know, change my look up and stuff. And now, after being at the club a little over a year and a half, or however so long it's been, I've almost lost track. And just like you said, what Caesar do you know? And that's kind of the process I want to do for myself is not be bored with the club or do the same thing over and over and over and play the music over and over and over. I want it to evolve like music does, the times, and just be perceived as, wow, this guy has a very well-rounded aspect of entertainment skills. You know,
Yes.
and once you finally do figure out your style and how you like to do your thing, I do like country music regardless, but at the same time, I do like hip-hop and I do like rock. So I'm also trying to find my style and be the kind of an entertainer I want to be, which is very well-rounded, athletic looking, appealing, you know, great body, all these things that I want to find a perfect style and a perfect niche for myself. But in the end, I'll never be perfect, but I'm always going to continue to strive to do a little bit more for myself.
Well, I mean, the thing is that boredom goes both ways. You know, it's not only you're bored yourself, but for the women as well. You know, the ones that come back and see us a lot, they're going to know the different aspects.
Mhm.
Case in point, people know I change. So to certain people, that's just it. Like, all right, what's Caesar going to do tonight?
Right.
You know? And it's the same thing. You want to keep your show fresh. And that's that fine line. And that's why we have signature moves. All the ladies that frequently attend
Mhm.
are going to know our signature moves. But see,
Right.
there's a fan inspiration to that. They're like, oh yeah, Caesar does this, Tyler does that, Damien does this. It's great. They feel like they connect. But it also works for the first timers. You know,
Right.
there's plenty of people that come in once in a lifetime, and that's the first time they're going to see that move. And you'll be surprised. It surprised me
Mhm.
with how detailed some women can get. You know, they're like, oh yeah, the belt thing. Like, I love it when he ties up his hands.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he does this spin move. And things like that, they really stick. It's like one more thing that you kind of send someone off with.
Mhm.
And it'll happen all the time. And that's why it's going to take you time to learn that.
Yeah.
And when you do finally feel like you achieve it, you're really just looking to the next step up.
Mhm.
But we've touched a little bit on another major aspect of it, which is music.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Music is definitely
you know,
a big part of the club, for
it-
sure.
it-
That
it-
is the whole club. That and choreography.
Yeah. Oh, it's there you go. They go hand in hand. It
Of course,
creates an
man.
environment, a dynamic relationship. In my opinion, I actually I know it because plenty of people ask me all the time.
Mhm.
Is that, you know, is the DJ picking the music, or are we like we just go out? A lot of people believe we just go out on stage and the DJ just kind of does their thing and we just freestyle to it. But the fact of the matter is that there are some people that do that, mainly the newer guys, till
Right.
they kind of find
Yeah,
themselves,
of
like we
course.
talked
Of
about.
course.
But the more simple answer is that people, you start to grow, you adapt to your music, and you start to kind of mark different cues that you want to hit, and
Right.
and different emotions. You know, it's a roller coaster that we want to take people on. So it starts off with your music selection. You know, first it starts off with your theme. For example, you as a cowboy.
Yeah.
So obviously you might not stick entirely to country music, but you're gonna want to have country music because that's
Exactly.
your theme. If I'm going out, I'm doing Ghost Rider, or I'm doing Conan, chances are I'm probably gonna lean a little heavier to rock because it doesn't flow correctly if I'm out there
Exactly.
being all gothic and evil and then go into like club hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Or
R&B.
Or we come out doing a quartet and then you come out to heavy metal.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
You want to appeal to whatever kind of genre you initially came out with, and there's never a set standard on, you know, this is the exact music selection I have to have. And sometimes it is that way, and I feel that does, on the busier nights, it does kind of make your show, I would say, a little more appealing. So you can kind of hit those marks to certain people, sing along. For me, I do a little bit of Shania Twain and stuff like that. And there's a certain point where, you know, we have this Save a Horse Ride a Cowboy part after we do, you know, our main choreography, which is my cowboy skit. And that takes a lot of choreography. It's pretty simple, nothing too intricate or anything like that. But for the most part, there's a certain point where on my music selection, it's this song, this song, this song, and this song. And then now, like we were just talking before and in previous discussion, that I'm evolving as a person, and I'm appealing to more people, even to myself. And for my music alone, it's a little different. I'll let our DJ Caden, hey man, just play something pretty cool. I'm down for whatever. And even on a busy night, it kind of keeps me on my toes too. I mean, you go in the DJ booth and you write down all your music, right?
It's funny because it's kind of one of the faults again of jack of all trades, master of none. Because I'm able, over time, I've evolved to where I can dip into all kinds of genres. I play rock, I play oldies, I play hip hop, I play Latin music. It gives me the ability. It gives me more decisions or more options. So sometimes, I have to go to the DJ booth. I have to sit there and check out the crowd. Like, do I want to play Latin? Do I want to play hip hop? Do I even want to splash a little country in there? So it's definitely a little bit of a chemistry that you have to find that rhyme tune.
Yeah, of course.
And it's just, once again, that's why they call me the crowd pleaser, because I'm constantly trying to adapt my show to appeal to the most amount of women and make sure they have the best time. One of the things I've done, just because I like being creative, I like using my hands and stuff, is I was also taken to editing music. So I create mixes, which is something that it's not for everyone. Some people, like you said, they do go out there and pick song for song, or they bring the DJ a CD of the songs they want performed or played on while they're on set, and then they mark it down. Okay, I want 1, 5, 3, and 2 played in this order. But for me, I kind of wanted to take a little bit of the guesswork out of it for our DJ Caden and Nick and Lance before him. Because the DJ also has to work the lights, and they also have to work the mic. You know, you want to hit certain cues, you want them to say certain things, and it kind of really ramps up the show. All these things combined really ramps up the show. So what I've done is I've taken the songs I want played and made a mix and edited it to 10, 15-minute mixes where the songs play for the length I want them to play, and they transition the way I want to, and they have a nice clean transition. And it gives me a benefit to hit certain cues that kind of fall in the choreography, but not quite. It's kind of one of those things that goes to waypoints, like as well, because I feel like everyone does it, and you have to learn this. Is I want to take my shirt off here. Exactly. I want to rip my pants off here. I want to show my legs off here. I want to flirt with the girl there.
As dumb as that sounds, it does make a difference. I think to the guy and the girls. And the funny thing is, when you say you make those pre-made mixes, I call that DJ push play. Play and go, and then he could literally walk away. If we had the lights synced up to where it was just all on cue for a certain second, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I tell him, I'm like, hey man, I know you've been in here for a long time. If you need to go use the bathroom real quick, just wait till I rip my pants off, and then once I'm taking tips, go do what you got to do.
Right.
It's like, thanks man, I've been holding it for a minute. So it works, and then as well, then I know I could tell him like, hey, when I'm doing this part of this act, I want this kind of light, or I want you to say this here. Granted, a lot of times I'm pretty laid back and I'm flexible. I'm like, hey, I trust you. Do what you got to do. We'll work together. It's just leaving a couple little snippets. If you could give me, like, for example, I do my Joker. It's really important for him to give us the spotlight when you're doing your dialogue or I'm doing mine, because it really emphasizes on that versus seeing the entire stage or hitting the strobe when you flip me. It's little things like that it takes it to the next level. It turns the act from a 7 to an 8 or a 9.
And that's funny you say that. When it comes to lighting, you can tell a difference if our patrons and people listening right now come out on a Thursday night and you watch amateurs get undressed. It looks pretty lame with just a regular old lights on the stage and
just a random song
and people just taking their pants off. And there is a fine art to having the right lighting to hit your abdominals so it shows that aspect correctly, and shut the lights off and you have a little fire in front of you and your music's right. And there is a lot of aspects that come into the choreography, the playing, the theatrics, even like you were saying with your Joker act, man, that's a great act. Once you get the lighting down to a T, it makes that act from, just like you were saying, a 7 to a 10 to something that's like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. It's literally right in your face, right there, a big time production show that you can literally go up there and actually touch the entertainers. That's what I think makes our club, bar none, by far one of the best places I've ever seen personally.
And you almost you feel it when you hit that mark. It's almost as if you're bracketing in mortars or something like that. When you just randomly do something to a song, and then like it kind of clicks on you, like you're driving and you hear a song, you're like, man, I could totally picture like ripping my pant legs at that
I
point.
do that all the time.
Yeah, and then when you do it on stage, like you get it, it clicks. You're like, boom, the beat dropped, your pants came off, everyone screamed. Like you just feel the right motion. You know, you hit it, and that's something that's a big aspect of it. It's the showmanship part of it that people don't realize how important music is, and you feel the difference.
Right.
If the DJ is just freestyling and you just take your pants off at a random time, it doesn't have that same effect. And eventually, you do it so much that like it almost feels wrong when you don't. When like, let's say for whatever reason, you know, a girl's kind of holding on to your belt so you can't get to your spot in time, or whatever reason, and you miss your cue, like you're almost like, nope, I'm gonna wait for the next one because doing it late is just gonna ruin it. It's done. It's ruined.
The thing for me is I feel the same way, man. It's funny you say that because there'll be times like I said before, I do play like Shania Twain and some, you know, traditional country songs. Yeah, they're not as modern, as upbeat as some things, but a lot of the girls know them, and I'll be sitting down taking a tip, messing, flirting with the girls, haha, having a good time, and then I like to get up, sing the song, and dance a little bit. And if someone's holding on to me, I'm like, you're ruining my act right now. I'm not performing as well as I can do, and I'm not really appealing to everyone in the crowd. And as funny as it seems, and we can go back and touch on this, you know, a whole nother show, and go back to the point of utilizing the whole stage. You can't just look at one girl in the corner and just focus on her. You have to give her attention, look over your shoulder, and kind of smile at the next girl and groove on, and then get back up, and then appeal to people that are still sitting down and get them to come up. So everything is for the crowd. I would definitely have to agree with that.
Oh, yeah, and music helps set the mood too. You know, there's times when you want to flirt. Like let's say I do Maroon 5, which is, you know, not really a mood saying. It's just a get up and dance kind of feel. You know, I play Maroon 5, a song from Maroon 5. We have chairs, we have girls on stage. It's fun. Typically after that, I want to go into something like a club hip hop. Something a little upbeat, maybe even a little flirty. Good Kisser from Usher or something like that, where you can flirt with the girl and I could dance, show off my moves a little bit, but really connect to the girls. And same thing like when you do shower. You can't go in a shower and play a rock song.
Yeah.
You can't go in a shower and do a country song. You have to pick something methodical, something that almost radiates out of the shower and into the crowd.
Exactly.
And you're really good about falling into sync about that, you know, and you mentioned sing-alongs too. That's great. Like that is one of the things. I know Randy probably is the one that brought you up.
Exactly.
Because he's told plenty of people, and I've noticed it too. You picked the right classic rock song or a good country song, and it just brings the whole crowd together because everyone's singing along. And you're the conductor. You know, this is your orchestra and the symphony. You're bringing it together. It's a great vibe, absolutely great vibe. You can't teach that. You can kind of tell someone about it, but until they start doing it, it won't click. And when it does, you feel it. You see the reaction and you feel the experience on stage. And people come up, they're like, you know what, I'm having a great time. I'm gonna go tip that guy.
Exactly. And I mean, point in case right now, you know, just talking about the mood and changing the mood and actually appealing to people's tastes in the time is, I would say this last weekend, you know, there was a girl and her friend. I probably didn't see them get up one time that whole night, and I just sat there and laughed and smiled and was charismatic, singing along with the songs, and she looked at me and goes, that guy's having a good time. His mood is changing my mood. I'm gonna go tip him. Yeah, granted, it was only $1 at the time, but it's all about setting the mood, and even if she
the intention was there.
Yeah, and it was passion, it was real, and you know, I wanted her to have a good time, and I wanted her friends to have a good time, which means it just brings the whole atmosphere of the club up, and then everybody else seems to be having a better time. The tempo of the show is better. It's just all around. Everyone has to kind of utilize themselves and look at, man, this girl's having a good time. I can have a good time too. I don't have to be so shy.
So we have all this creativity and freedom to express through our music, but there are actually some restrictions that do fall into it. Some of it has to deal with management, and some of it is just the truth of the matter when you're on stage. Typically, guys should play top 40 things, or classics are the go-to, like kind of the foundation. You want to, anything that's top 40 is always going to be popular because that's what's playing on the radio, and it's great because it has a secondary effect of, you have like that subliminal trigger later on. I can't tell you how many times, I know it's happened to you, where someone will be driving in their car and they'll hear a song that you play on stage and they immediately think about you. And you want that. So that's the positives, but there's also restrictions. Two of the genres that really don't sell very much as far as being on stage is extremely thug or ghetto music, if you will, like stuff that's really mellow beat and it's just a guy just hardcore
Explicit,
rapping.
yeah.
Or explicit. Yeah, that's a good point
super
too.
Explicit content.
Because like we said, we have people in the club from all ages and all kinds of backgrounds, from 18-year-old till 68 and 70-year-olds, and sometimes you just don't want to hear that. I know sometimes it doesn't fit me. I'll be on side stage, and if someone plays something a little too, derogatory, like it kind of it loses its feel.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin is death metal. I'll be honest with you. I think most people that work out listen to some kind of heavy metal at some point because it gives you that fired up, angry feel.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work for a club. You're trying to make people happy and have a good time, and then you just hear this blasting over the radio where it's just some dude screaming or guitars, just intensive guitar riffs.
Yeah.
And once again, it's a very narrow crowd that might not be in the mood for that. And I mean, shoot, sometimes you end up giving people even headaches.
Yeah.
And you'll feel it. It'll kill the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are restrictions. There are something you have to be careful. It's not no hold bar, play what you want, and you'll rock it out. Every once in a while, you can kind of find the happy medium of maybe sliding in one or two songs that you like in there. But
you don't want to play them for too long either.
Correct.
I mean, you can get away with something just to kind of get your mood a little uplifted, but at the same time, I think there is definitely a fine line. You want to appeal to everyone else, just like you said, playing the top 40, maybe some Britney Spears stuff or NSYNC, and
for sure,
playing some funny stuff that all the girls know, and that's what really I think makes the whole mood and everyone's whole vibe of the club really be uplifted. So we do have to restrict a lot of things that we do play, and no real successful businesswoman is really going to want to come in there and sit down and have someone scream death metal in their face, or a mother of 4 kids that comes in there. She wants to listen to some NSYNC or something that's kind of hip hop and fun.
Yes.
That brings a good vibe. She doesn't want anything that's kind of downright a little too raunchy for her.
All my mixes have at least 1 or 2 songs that girls just go crazy for, even if I'm not a fan of them.
Exactly.
If I see girls absolutely like, oh, this is my jam, it has to go in.
Yeah,
period.
But you better lip sync it though.
Yeah, for sure. You have to know the song. If not, they'll call you false. They're like, oh no, he's just playing. The DJ's playing this.
Yeah.
So, and it makes a world of difference. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard girls just like, they'll start dancing and getting up and booty popping on there, and they're like, wait, oh, this dude's playing it? Yeah, we're gonna go tip him. Yeah. Like, oh my god, I love this song.
Yeah.
So
it makes a world of difference, man. I'm inclined to agree on that statement for sure.
So, all right, I think we can kind of call it a show. Let's wrap things up if it sounds good to you. So that was just a explanation of the dancing aspect of being a male entertainer, because at the end of the day, that is the foundation. It's how you spend the majority of your night. It's how you move. It's how you appeal people. It's how you draw people to you right from the get-go, but without even saying a word. It is almost, you're almost using sign language to draw people towards you and to get to know you better. Mm-hmm. And market yourself all night long, and you can really change someone's mood if you perform the right way. And it's not something that you can ever prepare for. No one ever grows up like, I'm gonna teach you how to move like a stripper.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
You won't learn it until you start doing it. Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole other side of the coin to that we could touch on a different show, is doing table dances and private dances.
Yeah, for sure. That's a whole different appeal than choreography on stage. That's a whole different appeal.
For sure. So, with that, we gave you another piece of the pie. Hope you enjoyed that portion of it. And every show, we're going to pick a different aspect and kind of go into depth into it like we did today. But with that being said, let's go into like our hopefully trademark thing, which is our best event of the week and our not so best event of the week. So let's go ahead and start with our not so best event. What was yours for the week, Tyler?
I would say the worst event of the week was I chose to do the shower act, which to some of you that have never been to the club, we have a built shower on the stage, onto the side. It's hidden by a curtain, and it's revealed at certain points of the show. It's either performed once or twice a night, and it's a very honorable act to do, and you have to be a veteran, which means you have to have been there for so long, and I'm very grateful that I get to do the act. But this night it was about 28 degrees outside, and it was pretty cold when I walked out of that shower. I was really ecstatic to do the act. I've only done it a handful of times, and for me to be able to do it and walk out, but at the same time be freezing cold, drying off as fast as I could, was probably not the sexiest thing. So I would definitely have to say that was probably my worst event of the week.
Hey,
A mixture of the best.
Sometimes you don't learn until you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to try it. Like, hey, unless something is completely off the wagon or off the reservation wrong, I typically tell people, hey, try it and find out. And then, hey, that's something you'll remember and put it away.
What would you say your worst
All right.
event was?
So mine is definitely, I don't know how not so great you want to take it, but I felt pretty bad about it. And it was actually outside the club. I ended up going to the range with a friend of mine. And she enjoys shooting steel, and so do I. You kind of get that instant ting when you hit the target. So why not? So we go out there, and this range has 3 different lanes you can shoot on with various different steel targets on it. And, you know, one just had the regular pie ones that we were hitting, no problem. Another one had half silhouettes that were a little heavier to shoot down, but as long as you hit kind of high, cool. Or we worked out this thing where I was shooting tandem with her and knocking them down. It'd be like ting ting and kind of finish it off and go down. So the last one was this, I've never seen it before, but it was like a tree. And so it had metal steel plates on each, kind of varied on each side, about 6 of them going up in a line. Some were red, some were white. I was like, all right, cool. So I went ahead, ladies first. She went up and shot. And she was trying to shoot this one, the first one. And I heard her hitting it. We were hearing the register of the metal, you know, the ting and everything. I was like, I'm not sure what's going on. She's like, I can't seem to hit it. I'm like, no, you're hitting it. I guess they probably just don't move, you know? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, no, for real. It's okay. Like, they don't move. No big deal. You're hitting it. That's awesome. Great time. So she was a little down on herself, just a smidge. But, you know, we're like, hey, it's rusted. It's old, whatever. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, look, I'm positive. These things don't move. It's just, that's why they haven't staggered. You know, it's kind of like a back and forth thing or whatever. So she's like, all right, cool. So she emptied her mag, you know, and I go up there and without thinking, you know, come up, take aim, boom, ting, and it flips over to the other side. I just dropped my head and was like, son of a... She just, like, I could feel, like, she was behind me, but I could just feel, like, I just had to put my foot in my mouth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here I am, just like, no, you're doing great, it's fine, everything's awesome.
It.
And then I just looked like the biggest, like, douche, because I was just... First shot just spun it around and just everything I just said for the last 2 minutes just went out the door. I was like, I feel like a jack. And yeah, I was, so, you know, not the worst, but definitely made me feel pretty bad. She was a great sport about it and went out. And then once she got it, we got them flipping back and forth. They were a little rusted in her defense and stuff, but I was just like, leave it to, you know, of course that's my luck. You know, I got it. She's feeling good about herself. And then just without even trying, I'm just like, I should take back everything I just said. So now, what was your best event of the week?
I would have to say probably my best event was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, trying a couple different things, utilizing the rope a little more, trying to appeal to a different crowd, and really not just fall into one category and be stuck into that. I would say that's definitely my favorite event was doing something that I like, still appealing to the crowd, but yet doing a little more rock, being able to do the shower scene a couple times now, and I would definitely say that was best of all my favorite event for the whole week was just trying new things, trying to, you know, portray a little different act, getting things together for a new act later on down the road, and just things like that, just really doing something different that I've never done before. What would you say your best event was for this last week?
All right, so I'm sure you have something like this, but it never, for me, it always strikes a chord with me. I think it's great, believe it or not. So it was early in the evening. I was going to do my doctor skit, which kind of helps break up the crowd when they're a little sober and stuff like that, because it's a little more on the humorous side, a little less sexy, a little more goofy, which I'm perfectly okay with. It changes up the rhythm of things. And so I go on stage. I never know who they pick up. You know, I typically tell them, hey, try to put up a girl that's never been here before. So her party has a good time. She has a good time. And so I come out on stage and I turn and I see this woman. I can't remember, forgive me, her age, but easily somewhere around the bouts of 65 years old woman, right? So she's out there and I come out and, you know, I have no idea what's going to happen. Every girl on stage is different. But I'll tell you what, as I'm doing doctor, like, she is just having the time of her life. I don't even think she had her teeth in, but she was clapping and giggling and chuckling and just having a good old time. And then it turns out her family was there with her. Oh, wow. It was her birthday, so I'm just gonna say it was her 65th birthday, and she is just laughing and like there comes a part where I put her hands on my butt, and she's like, "Ooh, child, I haven't had a butt like this in years. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna enjoy it because I don't know when the next time is."
That's a great.
And oh, she just had a blast. She was probably the best lady I talked to all night. It was just I don't want to give away the skit or anything, but she just had a blast through all of it. It was
Right.
laughing more than I think anyone else in the club. And when I was walking her off, she's like, "So I don't know if you know this or not, but I was a nurse for 45 years. So it just was even better that you came out with a doctor. And I'll tell you what, if I had a doctor that looked as good as you, I would have probably stayed another 20 years."
That's a great.
So it was great. Yeah, she
yeah.
went back, and I think she might have even stolen some money from one of her daughters to come back and tip me.
That's great.
So it was great. I mean, I made her night. Like, obviously, they had to leave probably about 10 or 11 because, you know, it gets pretty late pretty early for them. But it made me feel kind of good to kind of strike a little bit of youth into her. And the fact that she was willing to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, I think if anything, she was encouraging her granddaughters and stuff. Be like, look, we came here to party. Y'all better get up and tip some guys and have a good time.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
So it's definitely great. So, just something to kind of lift you up and make you realize that the world's still a great place. So now let's go into our listener questions. We actually have two. Our first one comes from Cindy from Canada, and she is asking, where do you get the underwear you perform with at? I am interested in getting my husband a pair or two.
Oh my gosh.
So, you want to take this one, Tyler?
Yeah. I'll tell you this, Cindy. For most of us, I know Caesar personally has his custom made by a tailor or a seamstress, whatever you want to call it, and I do as well. Sometimes the club has them for sale for us, or we go out of our way to find our own seamstress or someone else that is able to make those kind of altercations on some fabric that we either bring to them or not. We'll either go out of our way to try to find or have someone help us get some underwear kind of lined out, and it's a little more tasking than what some people think. I mean, I know yours are pretty in depth, and you use certain materials, certain designs, and either faces or whatever. And for myself, mine are pretty plain Jane right now, and I'm trying to step out. And that's kind of funny she asked that because these last couple weeks I've been trying to puzzle together and getting us some more designs for better quality underwear. And the only thing, and it sounds really conceited, but the packaging just isn't enough when you get them pre-made. So you got
oh, what a problem to have.
Yeah, so you have to either take these in and get them altered. So that's kind of the hurdle I'm with right now is going out of our way to try to get something else to work.
Yeah,
for
because
us.
I mean, just regular underwear just won't cut it on stage. You really have to kind of go after market or find. But he's right. A lot of guys typically find a tailor or a seamstress that can make these custom made underwear and to fit the bill. Yeah, for lack of a better term, I try to get underwear made for my events so they match the theme. Just because we're not wearing much, so what I do wear, I want to be in theme. And sometimes I just like to be different. Like some guys like different cuts or different, to touch on what Tyler said, like packaging and stuff like that, based on support and whatnot. So you can find stuff at certain online shops. I know Manview is a brand I like. They have pretty decent shorts, but some guys have fullbacks as well. So, all right, well, good luck, Cindy, and hopefully you get to find your husband a pair. If not, let him know that we have amateur night every Thursday night. He can come out and test his luck, even all the way from Canada.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Our next one comes from actually a resident local from Heather from Dallas. And do your friends perceive you differently based on the fact that you're a male entertainer?
Ooh, I like that question a lot. I'll let you take that one.
I'll be honest with you. It's really, us, we have to promote. So I tell absolutely everyone, I really don't hesitate. Unless I feel like it's absolutely going to ruin the mood. I won't go to church and be like, hey, I'm a male stripper.
Yeah.
But I tell everyone all the time. And because that's what it is. You never know. Most people are actually pretty excited about it just because of the enthusiasm I express for it, and that I don't let anyone talk negative about it. Yeah. I don't speak negative about it. I don't let other people. I admit the stereotypes are there for a reason, but I approach it in such a positive manner that it's hard for people to really look down upon it. Some people do. Some people, definitely are like, oh, the typical, like, I'm wasting away my soul while taking everyone's money and stuff like that, and that's okay. But the biggest one is for my friends back home that I've not necessarily lost touch with, but we don't keep in as close contact because I went to the Army and now I'm living here and they live back in Florida. But when they find me on social media or just reconnect, I tell them, like, yeah, I'm stripping now. It's exciting and, like, mind-blowing because they know how not secluded but introverted, and how quiet I can be and kind of to myself, and to imagine me on stage naked performing for hundreds of women at a time. They're just like, where's Caesar and what have you done with him? But
funny.
yeah, everyone's pretty much kind of taken acceptance. In fact, the weirdest thing is when people tell me they're proud of me. I get that a lot. I don't know if you do or not.
I think I've had. I don't necessarily know if anyone say they're proud of me. You know, my father and my family is very supportive. Everybody knows what I do. They're proud of me, and you know, in a successful rate, and you know where I've came from, and just progressively gotten better over time. But I have a lot of guys that I know look at me and say, "Man, you're living the life, aren't you?" And sometimes I look at them and say, "You manage one girl, we try to manage 500 on a busy night."
Yep.
It's not as easy as what it seems, and most of them are pretty intoxicated sometimes. And it's funny because then you'll get some of the girls that come see you on a regular basis and say, you know, I hate it the way these girls treat you sometimes. And I'm like, me too.
So you noticed, huh?
Yeah.
That's great. All right, well, right on. Well, Heather, I hope that answers your question. Appreciate you guys definitely messaging us. Keep your questions coming. We love answering them and making sure we kind of hit these points with a razor edge. I want to go ahead and thank everyone for listening. After all, this show is made for you, so we appreciate you tuning in and listening. If you do want to support us, you can definitely check us out on patreon.com/crowdpleaser. You can pledge whatever you want. There's no commitment. You can cancel whenever you want. You can even put a monthly limit so we don't go over your budget. And you can pledge as little as $1 per show. And it'll only take it out when, you know, the shows come out. Everything else is just perks you get. It's all free content that you get for pledging. You get access to our backstage stuff, which shows us rehearsing videos. We'll start putting more pictures on there. You also, for our more devoted patrons, can also get to see the show on stage live, performed in costume and everything, for those that aren't able to make it out to the club and see it for themselves. So definitely check us out. You can find us also here on YouTube at Caesar LeBear. Definitely subscribe, like us, share us with your friends, let them know what's going on here, because you never know. They might be interested or just want to further inform themselves. You can also catch me on Facebook at Caesar LeBear is my fan page, and Twitter is Caesar LeBear7, Instagram is Caesar LeBear7, and you can also catch my personal page at Cesar Goyaso. Tyler, how can they reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me on social media is I have two ways of contact, and then like I said in our previous show, in our pilot episode, that will probably further on down the line, I'll end up making a Snapchat for, you know, our patrons and stuff like that, so they can kind of get a little more behind the scenes and in the action, what we're doing with our lives and kind of the show and things like that. The best way to reach me is I have a Facebook page. It's LeBear Tyler Owen, and then I also have an Instagram page. Is fit.owen, O-W-E-N. That's the best way to get in contact with me. Either call the club or anything like that if you want to book me or Caesar for a strippergram or anything else for bachelorette, birthday parties like we've mentioned before, and stuff like that.
That's a good show topic we could top on too, is strippergrams, because that's a Pandora's box, definitely.
Of course.
Definitely check out Tyler's page. If you guys don't know, he is very into motivational speaking and inspiration, and I frequent his page quite a bit because he definitely finds these quotes that kind of just set your day off in the right mood. And, you know, if you need that pick-me-up, definitely check it out. All right, well, that's it. We really appreciate you guys listening. If you're in town, definitely come out to LeBear and check us out. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Tyler?
I appreciate everybody coming out, looking at the show, and, you know, being a part of this experience with us, and we look forward to doing a lot more things with you guys in the future. Feel free to contact us. Let us know if you have any questions or any type of show or something that we should go into a little more depth about later on, or if there's a topic that you think we really just needed to discuss. Either let us know on our Patreon page, get a hold of us through social media, or whichever way you'd like. And we just want to say thank you guys so much for coming out and listening to our show and being a part of this experience with us.